Record.
Okay.
Share screen.
Share screen, yep.
Share.
Yep.
I'm sharing screen.
Yep.
Done.
Awesome.
Okay. After the technical difficulties, we'll turn that. Okay, so welcome to my session on working smart, not harder, key digital skills digital natives are missing. I'll give you a bit of background as to where the thought process from this presentation came from. Now let me change screen. There we go. So sorry if you were in my previous session, you're probably getting a repeat of this bit, but been up until last year before, I was working with Sydney Catholic schools pretty much my whole career. And then during the second lockdown in Sydney, I sold my house. I bought a house via video conference in Port Macquarie, around the corner from lovely Meredith here, and moved in January last year to regional New South Wales. I have two lovely boys. I've got Ethan, who's 7, and he goes to a lovely school called the Nature School. Again, Meredith was it last year. ADHD, possible ASD. There's a lot of things with him that we're working through. And then I've got lovely Sebastian, who is a COVID baby and was born during the pandemic. So I actually had an extra long maternity leave because I didn't know what would happen to pregnant ladies during this. Oh, it's going in and out, in and out. I'm a Google innovator from the Sydney 14 Academy. I'm the Flipped Learning Global Initiative top 100 teachers and top 50 tech coaches on those years with my work in flipped learning in the early years. I have a Cert 2 in networking from 2008 and a grad cert of IC in education from Microsoft. I'll just move that out of the way. And I put the dates there because that's really important, because even though I specialize in Microsoft, I have been immersed in the Google platform for the last 10 years, and what I did in that grad cert is completely obsolete. And same as my networking, like I wouldn't be able to know what's happening now in some of the back end in the networking. I'm currently completing my second master's in disability studies, majoring in hearing impairment. I myself have a moderate sensory neural hearing loss. I'm currently learning Auslan as part of that to be retrained as a teacher of the deaf. So I've got a lot of things going on, and I currently work part-time. So when I moved to regional New South Wales, I made the choice to step down from leadership and go part-time so I can spend more time with my kids and my postgrad. And so because now I am glittering in and out of classrooms, I'm seeing a lot. And I come from, so the school I was working at prior, around the corner in North Strathfield, LA, the Assumption. I worked there for 5 years, and it was one-to-one iPads. Kids were very, very fluent in tech. And now as a casual teacher, that I'm seeing what's happening in other classrooms, I walk in with an assumed knowledge, and I'm seeing a lot of things that teachers do on a daily basis with their kids. And I'm thinking there's a faster way to do that. And that's where workflows come in. So most people are probably familiar with Prensky. If you're not, I strongly suggest you have a read of his paper, Digital Native, Digital Immigrants. And I've just pulled this section out. And it talks about today's students represent the first generations to grow up with new technology. They've spent their entire lives surrounded by and using computers, video games, digital music players, video cams, and they've spent less time reading than playing video games. Computer games, email, internet, cell phones, and instant messaging are part of their lives. And this whole paper talks about, it's mainly aimed at teacher education. 2 years, 2021, I taught undergrads here, and this is one of the papers we looked at. About the new generation of teachers coming in need to be proficient in the tech, because this is the kids that we're getting in our classrooms. However, then you've got Kirshner, who wrote a paper in 2017, who said that these researchers found that university students born after the magical year of 1984, my birthday, do not have a deep knowledge of tech, And what knowledge they do have is very surface level. The range of technologies they use for learning and socialization are very limited. When used for learning, it was for mostly passive consumption of information or for downloading lecture notes. And I found having first years straight out of high school, forget about the mature age, I'm talking about first years, straight out of high school a couple of years ago here, future of our profession, and when they found out we had to code, they almost threw their computers at me. But this is your generation. This is my generation. Kirshner goes on about they're using tech for personal empowerment and entertainment, but they're not always digitally literate in using technology to support their learning. And it comes when students are consuming content rather than creating content. And that whole content consumption and content creation debate starts coming in. One last thing from him, he uses the word digital literacy. And this was written in 2017. And last year when I was doing some research, I discovered that ACARA reviewed the general capabilities, which was ICT capability, and they've got this consultation paper talking about digital literacy. I've got a tiny URL there if you'd like to download it, because this is something that this is the skills that our kids need. Forget about the digital technologies curriculum. Most teachers see that as, oh, digital technology, that's what we have to teach. But what about all the skills that are embedded? And this is where our integration comes in. So this paper goes through, and you've got the general, it goes through a lot of chatter about why they reviewed it and all that sort of stuff. And then most people are probably familiar with this, which is the original digital ICT capability scope. If you haven't seen that before from the ACARA website, that's the current version, but then they reviewed it to a digital literacy version. I don't know when this is going to be, hey, this is what we're doing, but this is what I'm going to talk through today. Beautiful. So this is what I'll be talking through today, because this is where it's going. And I love the words digital literacy, being literate in the digital world. And it puts to words what I'm seeing in classrooms as I'm going in and out. And I have that luxury of doing that, whereas most teachers are in their four walls and that's it. Now this better load. Establishing a secure connection. Okay, I'm just going to move down. They put side by side the definition of ICT capability and digital literacy, and they've sort of nutted it out a little bit more. You've got some higher order thinking skills in there, like you've got investigating data. Involves critically identifying and appropriately selecting digital devices or systems. So you've got these, it made it a bit more full and made it a bit more contemporary. And when you think about digital natives, what are our students coming with? This is Ethan in term 1 kindergarten, my eldest, when he was 5 years old. And this is what our students are doing at home. Excuse all the baby toys because I had a crawler at this time, but this is, let's see if this is going to work. No. That can't be reached. So I'll try refresh, so let's see if that'll work. No. So what he's doing in the video is we've got Apple TV. He can't read. He's term 1 kinder. And I say, Ethan, go find PJ Masks. And he knows that PJ Masks is on Netflix and he knows what the Netflix icon looks like. So he goes over the Netflix icon and then he gets the remote. He goes, PJ Masks, voice search. Up it comes. Can't read, but this is the world our kids are using. This one's not loading as well. So Sebastian knows at mum and dad's house there's Google Home. And he goes up, Google, hey Emma, Emma Memma, which is Emma's new persona. Google, Emma. And he's using that voice search to try to get a response. Then he goes, Emma not working. Because he knows that he can try to get a reaction. He can access information via voice. So these kids are the click generation. I was at a play centre at a birthday party and there was kids sitting at a table on their iPad watching YouTube. You're at a play centre. Yeah. But this is what families are giving their kids and they're just going click. And that's all they're doing. And even if parents are using YouTube Kids, it's still, okay, oh no, I've watched 2 seconds, I'm bored, I'm going to click on the next one. They're used to constantly changing. Masters of photography on an iPhone. If I give my 2-year-old my camera, my phone, I then spend 20 minutes deleting random photos of nostrils and ceilings and all sorts of things. They tap for a reaction. So on the drive, 5-hour drive here, he was having a bit of a tanty. I gave him an interactive fire truck and he taught himself how to use it on the iPad, a 2-year-old. Because he learned he can press the fire hose and oh, it makes water. And you can hear him in the back. And he's saying all these things. He's getting this reaction. They're using TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. You've got kids on Minecraft and Roblox. I once had a Year 2 child who was a perfect child. And I had he liked my YouTube channel. So I thought, what's this person? And I found that he was recording the Roblox screen and uploading it to YouTube, grade 2, but you can see the chat and I could identify every single child in that chat because they had their first name there. So I had to call his mum. Are you sure you have those 2 kids with the same name at this school? One was not too good and one was really nice. One was great behaviour. Are you sure it's not the other one you're meant to be calling? Like, had no idea that her child was doing that. If you want to fix something, you can Google it. My husband and I are techies. We had a plumbing problem. We found a YouTube clip to help us fix it. And video chat. I mean, for those of you who know Louis, they're used to having control of their device. And the moment in class you say, sorry, you have to go too, they don't want to because, hang on, at home I have free reign. And if you haven't seen this episode of Facey Talk, it's really funny. I've turned off the sound on it, but you could see how these kids are using. Never watched Bluey? I did a whole unit last year where I used Bluey video clips as my hook every single lesson. I was able to connect. It was all that technology of the past and technology of the future. And I found a Bluey clip for every single lesson. So what digital skills do our students need? So in your classroom, what do you wish students could do once they have reached you? So whether you're Year 1, Year 2, secondary, when you get those children at the beginning of the year, what assumptions do you have about their digital skills? And what frustrations do you have about students' choice of workflows? So when you say access this and you're watching them get to where they need to go, what path are they taking that frustrates you? So I have a Padlet here, Padlet link, and I've got here Foundation, Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3, Secondary. If you'd like to spend some time popping into the Padlet and adding something. So if you're a Stage 3 teacher, what skills do you expect that they would have learned in Stage 2? Or if you're a kindy teacher, besides logging on, what skills do you think your students should have had before they arrived? And so just place them where you think. And then I'll go through some of the things I'm talking about and we'll see if there's any connections that we can make, and I can cover some things if we need to. But it's really interesting that someone's assumptions may not be someone else's because of their skill set. I once had a teacher that I worked with. I was working in large class support, so I was going in and out of classrooms with 34 kids, and it was a year 4 class, and the kids were just researching and typing information to a doc. And I asked the question, what are they doing with this information next? And the response was, do you know the zone of proximal development? This is where they're up to, that's all they can do. And the previous year I had year 1 children make their own David Attenborough movies.
I had an argument with teachers once about whether we should teach spreadsheets in year 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I taught spreadsheets last year to year
Yeah,
4,
yeah.
and year 4 to 3, 4, but we let 10 years ago and we learned to do that because they were able to do it.
Let's see what's anything particular coming up here. Mouse click, both with mouse and touchpad. Yeah, I've got a stage 2 group at the moment, and I've had to teach them with the touchpad on the Chromebook. I teach them 2-finger because they don't have the dexterity sometimes to use one hand. Hold down this, drag it across. Or when you want to move something, what the mouse looks like before you move it. Because if you want the outline, it's one thing. If you want a cursor, it's another thing. So understanding those mouse skills, managing files. Yep, I'll talk about file management. We'll come back to this, and I'll revisit this. If you think of anything throughout the presentation, feel free to just pop in and add to it. I might have to do my presentation without the big screen. Ah, there we go. Okay, so do we need a checklist of skills? I've seen this on the online forums all the time. Does anyone have a checklist of skills for computer skills? And this is one that I sometimes, people who really want one, I refer them to the Medina School District which talks about introduce, developing, mastered, and what they introduce each time. But what if your school uses Google and another school uses Microsoft products? What if you were using, so my previous school from year 4, it was BYOD, laptop, but some kids brought MacBooks and some kids brought PCs. So some kids had pages, some kids use Google, some kids use Word. What if you're in a multi-device environment? How do you teach skills?
I had an interesting one this year where we got our staff laptops upgraded and they put us on Windows 11. And I went to the IT and department was like, can I have one of these laptops as well? Or can I get de-upgraded somehow? No, I'm fine. Yeah, mine does, yeah, de-upgrade. I was like, mine does the same as theirs. Yeah, this isn't going to work for your kids. Like,
you want to show the kids something, but you're using a different version.
Yeah, I was like, it needs to look exactly the same. And then it's like, and what's worse is that like the head of IT literally has a daughter in first grade after school. It's just like, yeah, what?
Yeah, it's those decisions where they don't think about what's happening in the classroom. iPad versus Android versus laptop versus Chromebook. So you got Chromebook shortcuts. Some Chromebooks only like you using the shortcuts. You start using copy and paste, it actually forces you to use the shortcuts. One-to-one scenarios versus one-to-many. So my previous school last year that I worked at, the kids had access to a computer lab with laptops, but when I did casual days, I was told mathletics in the lab. And I go, is this what you normally do? Oh, you normally do our mathletics in the computer lab. They have 1 hour a week at their teacher and they're playing mathletics. And then they had an hour with me and I'd be trying to do computer skills. Very different to my one-to-one environment when I was in Sydney, and the kids were very affluent on how to filter in and out of different devices. My mantra is give something time now to save time in the future. When you set up your class at the beginning of the year, you set up your class rules and expectations. You set up your organizational structures. There are some teachers who spend lots of time making beautiful title pages and book covers, which is fine. But do you spend time setting up the digital literacy skills that you expect your class to have at the beginning of the year? Logging on is not included. I don't take logging on as an excuse. And these, I'm going to be talking about what some of these housekeeping rules should be. So I started pulling out of the digital literacy continuum just some skills. One of them is about managing content. And it's hard to see because of the shadow up the top. But the first column is kinder, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and so on. So kinder should be able to save and retrieve information and data. So organising files, beginning of the year, do you sit kids down and go, if you have Google Drive, now I work mainly in Google Drive. So if you're working in OneDrive, this would transfer over. I don't know how it'll look like because I've never really used OneDrive, but clean up your drive. Get them to look at it. Look at all your documents from last year. Make a folder, 2022. Let's drag them all into the folder. That's last year's work. We don't need that. Let's make a 2023 folder. If you have subject books, you should have matching subject folders. Teach your kids. Make a maths folder, make an English folder, make a science folder. Like going to a new page in a relevant book, you go to the folder to create your new document. Have agreed, like they talk about agreed naming conventions in stage 2. So you tell your kids to put a tile on top of your page. Do you have an agreed naming convention? Are you naming them by date? Are you naming them by a certain name? If you're using Google Classroom and you're attaching files, that's a different story because the files are sitting in the classroom folder. But if you're getting kids, okay, everyone make a PowerPoint and you haven't shared anything and you expect them to attach it to their Google Drive, to their Google assignment, they need to store it somewhere. And the times I've gone into a casual classroom and, oh, you've been working on a slide on Australia. Can you please bring that up? I can't find it. What did you call it? I don't know. Do kids know how to use their recents folder? Younger grades, Google has shared with me. I mean, if you have the time and you have time, teachers have time to make beautiful labels for their classroom, have time to set up their digital classroom. Make a folder for each kid. Set up the file structure and go share it with me and teach them how to add it, the shortcut to Drive or to Start, so then they can access it. The beauty of that is you can then, you're already the owner of that folder, so you can flitter in and see everything they're making, as long as they pop it into that folder. That video won't load, but when I worked in a school last year, I set up a website project where it was self-guided with flipped video within my classroom because the kids were all at different levels. So looked a bit like this. They had to go through, now this is the whole document. I shared sections at a time as the kids got up to it. So file organization, they had to watch the video, they had to do a knowledge quiz and then had to set that up on their Drive and then send me a screenshot through Google Classroom. So I set up different Google Classroom tasks. And so there were kids who would do that really fast and the kids will take 3 lessons to do that. And this was stage 3. So this whole project was all run with videos because I had kids at different levels and I needed to make sure I couldn't be everywhere at once, and these kids were not self-help kids. So I would say watch the video again. If you watch a YouTube clip again to learn how to do guided drawing, you can watch my YouTube clip again on how to do filing naming conventions. So that's where that video there has come from, and that's on my YouTube channel. Switching between platforms. I don't know where that file went, was in here somewhere. So downloading to your PC and uploading to Drive. So the kids, when they were taking screenshots on their PCs, where did it go? Where did it save? Knowing how to use your downloads folder. I'm at a school that has Chromebooks and the kids have no idea where their webcam photos went to. Okay, share with me or take a photo of your work or film yourself doing the science experiment and then upload your video. How do I access it? Like you've had Chromebooks for 7 years. How do you not know how to access that downloads folder? Using an iPad to create content, then uploading it to Drive on the iPad, but then coming back to a PC. Like you might be filming a video on an iPad, but you can't insert a video on the iPad version of Slides. So you have to then go to a PC to access it. So understanding the whole, I've started something on one device, I now need to go to another device. What's the save button?
Widescreen.
Oh, it's a disc.
I've got to
What's
tell,
that?
I've got to tell it's widescreen TV.
I did a Cashew Day a few weeks ago where I taught kids, the kids had to do some typing, they had to start publishing. I said, okay, well, open up your OneDrive, because that's what they use, and open up a doc, and you need to make sure you save it. How do I save? Auto save wasn't on. Press the disk button. What's that? Like, do they understand icons?
There's a research project there. Why do we use a disc? Why do we use that picture?
Workflows. So I will go on to Google Classroom, everybody. This is what the kids will do.
Yeah.
Look,
That's too fast.
Google Classroom. Okay, then they click on the one up the top, which is in fact an ad for Google Classroom. Then they click on the sign in button. And then they have to spend ages signing in because depending on which system you're at, the departments have to use the education email. Some kids don't realize they have to do that. If you're in a Chromebook, it hopefully will sync. Do they know about the waffle? That little icon in the corner. That little icon in the corner that has all your shortcuts.
No, that's, I can do.
Have you taught kids how to set up bookmarks? So when I teach science this year, and I know that the kids will be using Google Classroom, and there's a Australian Museum website. So I got them up to show their bookmarks bar, set up a folder saying Mrs. Jackson Science, and they had to then star those websites. So when I say open up Google Classroom, for those who go the long way, at least it was a quick way, but Australian Museum, go to your bookmark, click, you're in. Search bar, using the search bar to find things. Teacher modelling. What workflows do you do all the time? I worked a little bit as a second teacher in a room sometimes, and I'm seeing how other people do things just for my mental note about, okay.
It brings up something, if you do a Google search, you click it.
Sorry?
It's blocking everything.
Yeah. So that talks about the search, how search works, but do kids know how search works? Wikipedia as crowdsourcing. I'm still in stage 3 classes where kids are still using Wikipedia. Do they understand what crowdsourcing means? Do they understand that they could log in and they can edit it? Is it a good source? Understanding the structure. So when you search, at the top is ads. Do they know how to distinguish the ads from the main search?
Can I tell you something?
And
there's been some stage 3
Yes.
researching a marine animal, and a list of we want a bibliography.
yeah,
A couple of websites and a couple of books because they're in the library as well. The kids have said it's Google. It's the website I've used. So when they search,
oh,
they
it's
find
that blurb, the blurb that comes up.
information.
Yeah.
They don't even realise that the website is actually there, and that's the website there.
Yes. Well, raise your hand if you know about the tree octopus. 2 people. Okay, those who don't know about the tree octopus, I want you to go to Google and search tree octopus. It's a great task to do with your kids about searching. And I usually say to them, tell me the most important fact about the tree octopus. And most kids hit the first one. Say the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. And they do a bit of a read of the blurb. And they go, it's a tree octopus. It's found in the Olympic Peninsula. So, most important fact about the tree octopus. Anyone found it yet?
Internet hoax.
It's a hoax.
Yeah, not know that.
Yeah, it's not real.
When I first started using this, it actually didn't come up at the top of the page.
The hoax? No, it wouldn't.
The hoax bit never came up. But
Yeah.
the search even used to come down. Because
You
there's
get all the
there's
other
an
stuff, yeah.
entire activity you can do on zaptober.net. That have you seen it?
No.
There's a whole, I've got it on my webpage, a whole thing where you can construct the URL, look at who the author was, find, do educational research, like who references to it. And,
Yeah.
and you can do all these activities around websites.
Oh,
like
wow.
this. But that used to be like up down the bottom of the
Down the
page.
bottom somewhere.
Yeah, and now it's obviously,
Yeah.
even though the hoax is still up there.
But getting them to realise that not everything they read is real.
Yeah, I had two first years in education.
Yeah.
Convinced, I used it as an example, and they were like, no, really? And then,
Yeah.
sure, it's real. It actually was a kid's assignment, and the child submitted a classification assignment and did all the science around how to classify an animal and created the website, but it was a false animal.
Yeah.
And then it's been taken from there, but the backstory is the kid nearly failed because they didn't use a real animal.
Ah.
So that introduces a new concept of what are we actually assessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a real assignment for a kid.
Good to know the backstory.
As a page, or about drop-ins, which is also useful.
There's a cool book back on there too.
I think those are also.
The other one is like, how many times do we tell kids go search, but have we actually brainstormed the key terms? They still write the full question. How old is Ben Hall? Or when was Ben Hall alive? I was in a bush ranger task last year, and they still write the whole question rather than use keywords. So has time been spent teaching kids keywords? Kindergarten, using search terms provided. Now, they don't have to use a search engine, it goes in documents. So using something like Control F, finding document, and giving them maybe some information and getting them to practice using Control F and searching through a document. Even older kids, find the verbs. Okay, well, how many times have you used run? If you type the word run, it'll actually tell you how many times. Can you go through manually change run each time? Or how many times have you used set? Use Control F to search through your document. This section talks about creating content. You've got the content creation versus content consumption. No set apps, it's about the product conveying meaning, not the method. And using an I need to mentality. I need to make a movie. Okay, well, what resources do I have? I can either use my webcam, I can either use my iPad or my iPhone. Am I going to do an animation and use an app like stop motion? Or am I going to use a green screen? Or am I going to edit on iMovie or Clips or WeVideo? And if you haven't seen the pedagogy wheel by Alan Carrington, even though that's based on iPad and Android, it's a really good resource. He's updated it recently, and he has a whole blog that talks about it's not about the apps. And that's the Apple version. And you've got your Blooms, you've got your Sama, And then you've got examples of apps and you've got your action verbs. The great thing about these app pictures is that they're linkable straight to the the Apple Store or the Android store.
That's so cool now.
Yeah, well, this is
Bigger.
it's version 6 is up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Took me a while to find version 6 though.
Yeah,
It didn't come up easy.
But when you go to the page.
And even if you don't have or go, oh, I can't afford that app, there's more than likely going to be another method on how to do it. Great when you need ideas. I had someone go to me, oh, I'm not going to buy a book creator. What can I use instead? And there was an app, a bookmaking app on here somewhere that she goes, oh, I can use that instead. It's free. So he just puts these apps together, but it just gives you ideas. It's meant to be a way to bounce ideas. And we talk about blooms, but this is blooms for technology. And I talk about teaching the content, teaching the program that you want to use through the content. So if all the kids have the same thing, I might get the kids to create an ebook. Like I'm using Book Creator now with stage 1, and they're going to learn how to use all those different tools while we're doing a page by page. And that will be their final assessment because they have to show me the content. This is just some examples really quickly of things that I've done where kids have had a chance to play. So this is a year 3 class where they've never used slides properly. And so I taught the content first. I had to create the brief from the teacher because I was doing a casual afternoon. Oh, can you teach them how to use slides because you're really good at tech? And they need to do something on the creation story. And so I showed them how to do text box, image search, text formatting, how to use a touchpad on their Chromebooks, how to insert shapes, or how to search in the app for pictures. I still see kids go to Google Images, copy and paste the image and bring it over. Whereas if they search within Google, it's already partially Creative Commons. So you know that they're allowed to use them. And I introduced layouts as well. And they've come back to it after I did the intro. And so she's gone through, she's realized now how to do backgrounds by herself. My next step is to teach them how to hyperlink. I did the first one for them and I shared out the template. So they're going to hyperlink back and forth to the different things. She did that herself, the back button, which is great. So they're learning those skills so that hopefully as they move up the grades, they've already got this great bank of things to do. I don't have to do a presentation. I can do an interactive presentation, not just something linear. Sorry about a lot of religious examples because I used to use it a lot in religion because one of my goals was to show teachers how I'm integrating technology into subjects other than history, geography, and science. I used to use Lego kits a lot. We had, the kids loved it. And then the kids would photograph their work and this child put theirs in a comic book app. They're different kids, but you could see how they're trying to retell these stories from something physical and then bringing in the comic book app. This child asked me if they can use Minecraft. They were BYD iPads, so the child already had Minecraft, and I said, as long as you do I gave them a rubric and I said, as long as you have everything here, prove to me you can use Minecraft. And so he ticked off what he did and he had in his Minecraft book everything he needed to on reconciliation. These kids were doing a retell. So we have little storytelling kits. So some kids were filming each other do the storytelling kits to retell the story. These kids decided to work together, act it out using the green screen, and they edited it using Doing. This child decided to do it solo and did a whole bunch of selfies and put them in Book Creator to retell the story. And this child here decided to use a whiteboard and would photograph the whiteboard pictures. So sometimes it's not so much what app they're using, as long as they're conveying that meaning, they have choice. The other thing is taking a good photo. These are examples of work I've received. The reason why that worksheet was photographed is because we knew we had no internet that day. And so we quickly printed out the slide and then told them to take a photo, keep it, and then next lesson they were taking a photo and putting it in their virtual book. But I can't even read it. So explicit teaching on how to use a webcam, take a photo. I did one of those Apple webinars that they run, the creativity webinars, and there was an early childhood teacher who spoke about how they teach their early childhood children how to take a good photo. And they say, zoom with your feet. So if I want to take a photo, you go up close, holding your iPad, wings in, take the photo, making sure the light's right, and they talk about that little yellow box that comes up. And I was like, so simple. Wings in, zoom with your feet. And I've been using that now with older kids to get them to take a good photo because they can't. And they don't review their photo. I actually told that child, I'm not marking your work because I can't read it, so you're not getting a mark for that. And they freaked out and then went off and took a better photo. This one's taken a photo of their work, but they haven't made sure the item is in focus. They made beeswax pouches. Yeah, it's really simple that they love taking photos, but do they have the skills to transfer to education? Passwords? Biggest bane of teachers' existence. How do you store student passwords? A lot of classes I am have them on little rings and they're hanging up on the wall. So kids can just go, hey, here's my password. But are they secure? If we're teaching kindergarten about protecting content by securing passwords, is that secure? It's practical. Is it secure?
Yeah, sticking them in their books. Sticking them in their books. So better. Still not ideal.
It's balance.
Yeah.
It's a balance because
Balance, yeah.
kids forget. They
Yeah.
forget. And even if you make it something really simple, they still forget. So
Do they have it in their desk? Maybe that's a bit more secure.
Yeah. So like I used to stick
Yeah.
it in post for the stupid.
Yeah.
So the books were stored in my storeroom on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
And they weren't left in the classroom and they only had their own book. So yes, they could still potentially get some of them,
Yeah.
but not easily.
They're not advertised on the wall.
No,
Yeah.
but still.
Specifically said, younger kids mainly want
Yeah.
to be able to
Learn how to log in.
and to store your
Yeah. Balance. Yeah, the balance.
I have with year 3 right now, I started essentially the opposite of getting a pen license, which is to say they have their like password, their password on the little card. And once they're the same one that they had last year, so they're like a lot of them very familiar with it already. But at the point where they feel like fully 100% confident you no longer need that, I have purchased myself a tiny Amazon print shredder, and they get to come and shred their piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
And instead of being like, I'm like, once you shred that, you can never ask me for your password ever again. Like, and they're very careful of knowing they know it before they do. They're very proud of themselves when they do it.
Wow.
Opposite pen lines. That's really cute.
See, the generic passwords are easy, but one of my previous schools, I had one child over a school holidays doing chats with her friends. She'd log in as the other ones to stir trouble. So she'd pretend to be another child and engage in chat. Then she'd log out and pretend to be another child. And we had this massive cyberbullying issue because she was causing issues. And that was year 4. Yeah, so it's a balance, but also it's about teaching them those skills early on. What about logging off and logging out? So the school I was at last year, which had the computer lab, the kids, after a while, the screens automatically lock. But then someone else tries to log on and there's 5 other people who've stayed logged in and the computer would not work. And that was half the issue. Or they press the power button and not shut down correctly.
Well, they just
Never
turn
been
the
taught.
monitor- They just turn the monitor off.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
they do.
These are all like your computer lab.
Managed digital identity, big one.
my philosophy was, if you're still logged on and I shut that computer down, you can just focus on it.
Yeah.
So when they were in my class, they used to log off. But they didn't always log off.
Hard in cloud, in like Google environment, all like this. Digital identity. I had an issue with BID iPads where someone took a photo of the classroom and one of the kids, year 2, did a Google review. And one of the kids in the Google review photo that they attached to it was not allowed to have their photography taken. So permission, and then we got these TikToks. I've been involved in several things where kids have snuck a device in and filmed the classroom and uploaded it on TikTok. And this whole digital identity, looking at the Office of E-Safety Resources, consent applies to digital identity.
Can I say that also applies to school? My son's entire digital footprint till the age of 18 was created by the school, full name and year, what year he was in.
Oh, wow.
And because he represented the school in sport, they would go, Timothy Abbs, year 4, Timothy Abbs, year 6.
Yeah.
It was all created by the school, and I think schools need to not publish kids' names.
Yeah.
Or use first names but no year, or schools need to rethink how they publish school images on social media, because not everyone is.
Yeah, and that's where the permission forms come in. I know my current school,
There's never
they
names.
only do newsletter, and the newsletter can only be accessed if you have the link, and everything is stored in that portal. I mean, I know it's anyone the link can view sort of thing, but
they don't publish names.
the names are not published on the website, on Facebook and things like that. Yeah.
No way.
And it's not just, the amount of times, but cyber safety is a PD health thing. It should be as part of the conversation. Hey, we've got iPads today. I did it only this week when I gave iPads to year 1. If I see that you've taken any photos of any other student, I will be not letting you use this again. And if you delete it, I can find it, because then you don't realize it's a deleted folder. And teaching them from the word go that it's not okay. And then it's not home. Oh, and then it's a not home versus school environment. Like I'm dealt with something recently where children in the school holidays were doing things online, but the principal's reaction was it happened during home time. But they're using their school account.
Yeah. But even then, it's a very fine line if the behaviour comes to school.
Yeah.
So we had a social media issue where intimidation on social media, but that issue came to school. That's still, I think, privacy and safety and digital identity. In that, if it comes to school, even if it's on your personal account, it's still a school issue because it's causing the teachers' grief.
Yeah, that's it. It's cyberbullying.
It was, but you should see the drama that was issued by the parents.
Yeah.
Because they didn't think the school should have anything to do with it, even though they had other students in the school.
And these are things that, like, and some people who understand this world go, oh yeah, I've seen this before, but this is things I'm seeing when I'm glittering in classrooms, and most people see their 4 walls and nothing else. Or they don't know what's happening in the classroom next door. This one here is about problem solving. So even kindergarten and seek help when encountering a problem, but year 1 and 2 seek help, attempt to solve a problem before seeking help. So I had stage 3 last year and I would have every single hand up. I need help, I need help. Oh, I don't know where to find this file. I've given you 4 videos on how to help yourself. Watch it again. Who's driving when there's a problem? I spoke about that earlier. Anchor charts. So for those kids who don't know where to go, is there step-by-step on the wall to help them? Understanding user error. Computers are only as smart as their user. If it's not working, it's probably you. Well, that's the kids all the time. And so technology is only as smart as the input. Great video. I won't play it. I mentioned in my last session about Cookie Monster wanting to make a sandwich. He wants her egg sandwich. And she goes, well, you mean an egg? It's bread, it needs some butter, and it needs some salt. And then you gave her an egg sandwich. And he's like, well, if I get all that, am I going to get an egg sandwich like you? And he puts it all on the bench. And then he sort of looks at her and he looks at this pile of ingredients and eats the whole lot as Cookie Monster does. And you go, and she's like, that's not a sandwich. So it's all about how the user gives the instructions to the computer. So if we go back to the digital literacy skills here, understanding which application should I use. So giving students a bank. When I was at a school that moved to Chromebooks, or they had like 5 Chromebooks and 5 iPads in the classroom, I made signs that said, I want to make a movie. And if you're on the iPad, here's what you can do. If you're on a Chromebook, here's what you can do. And I gave them a list of what they can access. I think that's a stage 2 thing, if they have access to tech all the time. And stage 3 should be able to go, well, I want to. If they know they go to YouTube for a health video, they should know which app to use. If they can work out on the phone where to go on a phone, they probably should be able to work out what app to use. And I'm sure there are so many different skills that I've missed today. But like I said, it's just me going in and out of classrooms and seeing what kids do. And I don't know whether it's people going, oh, well, that's what they can do, or people don't realise there's a better way. I've got a teacher in my school where I send different like tech things. This year I've got a digital innovator role. So I send every few weeks a different tech tool. And she's actually gone out and, like, they're free, the ones I'm sharing, but she's actually gone out and bought the subscription. She goes, you just taught me a better way too. But if the teacher's getting excited about better ways, why isn't that passing on to kids? Because they get to high school and imagine a high school teacher getting frustrated that a kid can't get into their learning management system because they take the long way round. On my online class I'm doing at the moment, adults are learning and there's adults asking simple tech questions. Like, haven't you tried to solve that problem yourself? Or I found that form you're asking for on our learning management system. Why haven't you found it? So it's about building those self-help skills so they can access all those things. And from that particular document, the literacy document, they're expected to do things a lot younger now. So the searching one used to come in later on, but now they're expected to be able to search younger. And why can't a child in kindergarten go, I need a microphone, hats? Why can't they do that? Use voice search. I had a child a couple of years ago who refused to write because they knew their spelling was so poor, but had amazing ideas. And when I taught this child how to ask Siri how to spell things, he went from one line in about a lesson to several pages because suddenly this dictionary was opened up for him. Now, what's the task? To write a story or to spell correctly. I mean, that's part of it, but that just opened up access.
Now you've got to stand.
So my challenge for you today is to do a bit of a pledge. What's your pledge? Write down one digital skill you'll focus on in term 2 with your students. Now, mine might be to use bookmarks. Then formalize it. Convert it to a learning intention. We are learning to use bookmarks to quickly access websites we use all the time. Have it on your wall. And then test success. It's like, have the star icon on the board. Hey, you're going to sound waves. Do you have the star icon? Is it start? Is it a bookmark? It's a bookmark. Click on the bookmark. Remind them. Time races. Okay, everyone got their Chromebooks ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get on the sound waves. Who can get on there first? Anchor charts. How to make a bookmark. Write a procedure. That's another text type. What support structures are in place? Finding it hard. There should be have things like naming conventions. Is your naming convention somewhere visible so kids know what to do all the time? And that's time. So, thank you. I've learned something new. I'll have some thoughts pondering. And I think
We get all the slides, don't we?
I'm going to think that's not recording anymore, is it? Was recording.